By incorporating graphite sheets into the main housing and copper in the Apple logo, we've been able to improve thermal performance by nearly 20%.
The M4 iPad Pro 13-inch. This is apparently Apple's thinnest product yet, coming in at 5.1 millimeters thick. It's a miracle they managed to jam-pack all this tech into such a thin device. But what does that mean for repairability, and just how crammed does this thing look on the inside? In this video, we're going to be tearing this thing down a little, checking out the internals, seeing just how repairable this is, and whether Apple cut any corners into making this thing so thin. So this is just the 256 version. It's also not the nano textured display version. So take a look at that. Damn, this thing is thin. It's just about the thickness of a USB-C port with maybe a few millimeters on each side. That's insane. They definitely completely redesigned this device, and obviously this year we have the OLED display, which is awesome. They did remove the second camera, which is the wide angle lens, which I actually enjoyed on the other iPad, but they just kind of silently removed that. Anyway, let's take a look inside the box. We'll see what we have in here. So we obviously have the instructions, all that good stuff, and we do get a charger for the iPad Pro. It's a 20-watt charger, which is actually kind of slow to charge an iPad, but thanks, I guess. We also get the USB-C to USB-C braided cable. Very cool. Now we're gonna throw everything aside and take a look at this iPad. Honestly, this is quite intimidating to open because of how thin it is. It's gonna take a lot of heat and probably a lot of suction, and I wonder which way it opens. The iPad is done cooking. I'm so excited to open this thing up. It's gonna be completely different from the last one, especially since the camera array is over here. I'm sure the magnets are in different patterns as well to kind of get around that. We'll go ahead and take our mega suction cup and suck on the screen.
Hey yo, what the fuck?
This thing is probably very fragile given how thin it is. You can already see, just me pushing on this, look how much give there is. Oh no. This thing bends. Jerry Rig, please go easy on her.
But we do have to see what's inside.
Because I don't know where the flex cables are, it's important to not dig this card in too deep. We just want to cut the adhesive that's around the edges. We're making some decent progress just cutting that adhesive and making sure it's not re-adhering to the housing every time we stop prying. If you're wondering why I still have the device on as I'm doing this, it's so that I'm able to see any damage that might be caused instantly. Especially when it comes to heat, if you overheat the device, you'll damage the display. So I look for signs of overheating on the display before it gets to that point so that nothing breaks. Now we finally have the iPad screen removed somewhat. We can start to get a closer look at what's going on inside. So we have some display connectors on the left side of the iPad, and up here where the camera is, we have a microphone and an ambient light sensor. We have to unscrew that to get this screen fully off. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. Unscrew, and we'll go ahead and remove this shield, and then we can go ahead and disconnect this cable up here. Open it up. Now that we have the display lifted up, we can disconnect the battery, which appears to be this cable right over here. We'll disconnect that, and we can also go ahead and disconnect all the display cables. That's one, that's two. This cable seems to be similar to battery flex cables, which probably means this cable is dedicated to providing the display with power, because this is a really high quality display and clearly it needs its own power cable. So that's two cables. There's actually 3 and 4. Now that we have the display removed, we can take a look at Apple's thinnest product yet. This is a very pretty device. So this empty space is actually for the display's board right over here, which is rather large. We'll put that aside. Obviously on this device we have the 4 stereo speakers, hence the speaker holes, same as the last iPad. The orientation of the device is pretty similar to the last iPad. Obviously they flipped the camera around, so the camera is now landscape instead of portrait, instead of being over here. I'm really curious to see what the M4 chip looks like, so we're gonna go ahead and tear this thing down a little bit more, see if we can get a closer look at that. and see if Apple hid anything in the device. We're gonna go ahead and unscrew the rest of this shield over here. And now we can remove this shield. Of course, we have more shields. We're gonna see if we can peel this off, and hopefully the M2 chip is exposed. If not, we'll go a little bit deeper. After I remove this thing will not cool off that well. Now that we have the copper removed, we can see what appears to be the M4 chip next to its memory. We'll go ahead and scratch that off, see if there's a little Apple logo underneath. We're gonna go ahead and remove the front camera to get a closer look at the magnets underneath, because that's one of the major changes to this iPad this year. Go ahead and hit the front camera brackets with an unscrew, remove this bracket. Now we can go ahead and disconnect everything corresponding to the front camera and Face ID. It does look like they added some glue here. This is the same kind of glue we see in AirPods for waterproofing. There we go. We'll go ahead and unscrew the front camera, and of course the magnets steal your screws. Now we can very easily pull up on the front camera, and that is it. This is your 12 megapixel front camera, this is your infrared camera, and this is the dot projector mixed in with the flood illuminator. Over here you can see the new magnet array for the new Apple Pencil. You can also see a part of the wireless charger that charges your Apple Pencil, and surprisingly enough, the old Apple Pencil, this one is fake but it has the same magnet array, actually still connects, although it's not as clicky as it was before. Now we're gonna go ahead and take a look at that rear camera, and also that LiDAR sensor, and the lack of the wide angle camera. I still don't know why they removed that. There we go. Here is your 12 megapixel wide camera with what appears to be OIS. We also have your LiDAR scanner over here, which honestly I find pretty crazy that people still don't use this. Download Polycam if you want to test this out to the max. This device appears to have a very modular USB-C port, which you can probably pretty easily remove. It looks like there's just 3 screws, and then you can pretty much just pop this out. Honestly, the easiest charging port replacement I've seen in a while for an Apple product. Very cool. So there is a connector here that appears to be connecting these 2 batteries together. We're gonna go ahead and unscrew that. And now we have to pull back this cable over here, which appears to be another microphone. We're going to use some tweezers and just roll up on these pull tabs. This is so much easier than how it used to be. This teardown has been really enjoyable so far, and the removable pull tabs on the battery is icing on the cake. Assuming everything on here isn't serialized to oblivion, this device is pretty repairable. There is something I want to verify right after we remove this though. It's the copper Apple logo they talked about in the keynote. We have the battery removed. So this is a 38.99 watt hour battery, and it's incredibly thin. Now let's get that motherboard removed so we can take a look at that copper Apple logo. This board is glued down, so we'll need to pry under it a little bit. Now that the board is removed, we'll go ahead and peel up on the graphite paper that's covering it, and there it is, the Apple logo. But it doesn't really look like there's any copper there. If Apple says there's copper in there, well, there probably is, so we're going to find it. And there it is. You can only see a little bit of it, but at least we can confirm it's there. This whole design is actually genius because the M4 chip sits right above the Apple logo, which is essentially a heatsink. It's the perfect mix of aesthetics and functionality. Speaking of functionality, hit that subscribe button. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.